Hello and welcome to Gar1onriva's Top 5. Today I'm going to be talking about my Top 5 Gen 2 Pokémon. This is just like my Top 5 Gen 1 Pokémon list, except it is limited to Pokémon introduced in Gen 2 only. For the Gen 1 list, it is linked in the top right corner right now, so go check that out. Two things to remember. First of all, these are my personal opinions, so please don't tell me I'm wrong. And also, this was voted for on my Patreon, which is linked in the description. So, Number 5. Umbreon. I liked Umbreon's design from the very first time I saw it, and I've still not used it in a team apart from in Pokémon Colosseum where you get it as a starter, although that's in Gen 3. In truth, it's not the most useful or powerful Pokémon. It's a pure Dark type, so it has its uses, but for the most part, a pure Dark type isn't that essential. And I have to admit that it is mostly that I think it is really cool. I would love one as a pet. The glowing bands on it, sort of the yellow bands that glow in the dark, they're just such a great design choice, and as shallow as it sounds, it is mostly Umbreon's design that got it in this list. Number 4. Steelix. I love Steel type. I've said about it before. I actually said it in my Pokemon Journey tag video, which is linked in the top right, that Steel would be my type if I ran a gym. And I've never really liked Onix. I don't know if that's because I associated it with the first gym, which, way back then in Gen 1 was just the biggest first challenge you ever encountered in Pokemon, or whether it's just because it's an incredibly boring, dull Pokemon with an kind of boring design. I mean, yeah, it's a rock snake, but that's about it. Steelix, on the other hand, is really cool. Listen to me, how much more subjective can that get? But still, I think it has a very sleek, cool design, and it's powerful in a fight, but the only tragic bit is that you need to trade to get it. So on my current Soul Silver run, I cannot get Steelix, because trading is now disabled on that game. You can't trade between players. But every time I pick a team in the free battle of Pokemon Stadium 2, Steelix would always be on that team. Number 3. Espeon. I almost cut Umbreon out of this list because I knew Espeon would be on it, but I decided to allow both anyway. I figured, they're sort of divergent paths, so it's perfectly fine. And I see them as a pair because of Colosseum, because you get both and it's all double battles. But Espeon was always my favourite of the two, both in use and in just general preference. Again, I would love an Espeon as a pet, although to be honest, if I had to choose between the two, I reckon I'd go with an Umbreon for a pet, but Espeon as a Pokemon to use in battles, if that makes sense. And that's mostly because Umbreon is a cooler design, looks cooler, sort of generally a cooler Pokemon, as it were. If you want to hear more about my thoughts on Espeon, it's sort of in my top 5 Pokemon list, which is linked in the top right. Number 2. Cyndaquil. This is still the cutest Pokemon I have ever seen. I chose it as my starter when I first played Gen 2, I had Gold, and just like Bulbasaur in Blue, I never evolved it. Funnily enough, the other one contending for Umbreon's spot in this list was Typhlosion, but I decided that Cyndaquil and Typhlosion are sort of too similar compared to Espeon and Umbreon, who, like I said, are divergent paths, so that's why Umbreon got it over Typhlosion. I actually got given a plushie Cyndaquil, which is currently sat on my shelf above my bed, and he is absolutely adorable, by the way. To hear me talk more about Cyndaquil, again, linked in the top right corner is my top 5 Pokemon list. And finally, number 1. Skarmory. Surprise! It's the one I always talk about as being the best. This list is a bit awkward because of the massive overlap between it and my top 5 Pokemon list. But it was bound to happen, and that's fine, It's just something. Specifically to Gen 2, it's very sad that you do get Skarmory so late, so that's why I've never used it in my team in Gen 2. But right from when I first saw it, because I had the Master Guide for Gen 2, I saw it way before I ever got anywhere near catching it, and just my love of it grew from that very first moment. It is awkward that these last 3 in this list are relatively brief because I've talked about them in the top 5 Pokemon list, which, again, linked in the top right. Go check that out for sort of more details and more gushing about Espeon, Cyndaquil and Skarmory. Spoiler alert, they're in that list. And that is it. Please comment with your favourite Gen 2 Pokemon as well as suggestions for future top or bottom 5s. And remember that you can vote for next month's top 5 by pledging to my Patreon linked in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you later.